It is Monday. It is time for some Martial Powers lunch. Give me a second here while I check my stream to make sure we're up and running, and we'll gear up and go here as soon as I get everything locked down. It's cool. Sounds like my signal is good. That is excellent. If you follow me on Twitter, I've just posted that I'm live on stream. So if you want to find out when I'm live on stream in the future, you can follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. I'm just going to take a moment here to punch signal across the Ethernets to hit Indestructiboy's Designosphere and Durzazad's Discord, Triet Monk, DMsGuild Lounge, Drive-Thru RPG, One OBS, One Bookshelf, Dungeoneers Pack, Fry Mini, Zipperon, as well as Ryko over at the Cleric Corner, and I have a once every 3 days advertisement signal that I can kick through the Dungeon Master's official D&D Beyond Discord channel, which I have just initiated. If you check down the link below, you will also notice that there is a link to currently read-only playtest content for the Martial Powers system. Let me go ahead and fix my screen so you guys can look at that with me, but anyone is welcome to view this. It is a read-only document, but if you check my Patreon link down, it leads you to an About page, which provides you this link that we're looking at right here, which is the Martial Powers playtest content, which you are welcome to read along with. But of course, it's a read-only document, and this is the super alpha draft. So once we actually start getting serious about publishing, we'll be hiring an editor to swap out all the language. We'll reformat everything. This is just to give you guys a bare bones working model of what this system is designed to do, and we'll have we'll pay somebody to make sure it reads smart. So, hey Hornetico, it's good to see you, my bro. You has arrived. So I've got what is it? It's 11:45 right now. So I got about an hour and 20 I can invest today towards this endeavor. So I'm going to hit my 20-minute timer here and grab a sip. All right, what are we doing? When we were last here, let's grab our bit, and I'm going to. Yeah, looks like that fills out well. Let's zoom down to the end. Zoom. What are we looking at? Coming up January 23rd. We already had January 23rd. Coming up January 30th. Continuing power gear and creature samples. Cleaning up power language. What else do we have? We worked on class language and some power language while we were off stage last week. We're still working the DM's toolbox. Power gear samples. Building example creatures. Okay, cool. So we're on task. We're getting down to the nitty gritty where we can realistically have this kicked off to editing. I originally wanted to have this sent off to an editor in February, which is like a couple days from now. But I'm going to slow my roll a little bit because I'm still deep in production for the Crystals of Mabar Eberron adventure, as well as the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration supplement, both of which are also going on the DMsGuild. You can check my other playlists to see how those are proceeding, and they are proceeding really, really well. So I want to hold off on dumping this into edits, because once it goes into edits, I'm going to be heavily motivated to create a book cover for this. And I do not have the bandwidth currently to produce a book cover on top of the cartography that we've got going for the Eberron adventure, on top of the token asset production that we are currently working through in Spelljammer. So I'm going to just leave this as a lunchtime stream on Mondays for a while until we are well underway into getting those other two books out, because I don't want to have too many books stacked up at once. And honestly, slow cooking this thing has been working well for us. So I'm just going to keep up with that, and you guys can check stuff out as we go along anyway. So last couple weeks we had just taken some random subclasses from Barbarian, Rogue, and Fighter, and converted them into what Martial Powers would allow you to duplicate or near duplicate those effects with different resource mechanics, obviously. That was a pretty fun and successful experiment, and we ended up finding a couple of fun ideas that we could then take to build out into additional powers that kind of covered some of those gaps. So let's see, that's in the new ideas area here, which I'm going to drop down and blow up the size of that font so it jumps out a little bit more. Get through the new ideas, and then we'll call this subclass conversion workshop down here. There, just have that sit there so it's out of the way. Here's a slew of powers that we've been chewing on that have yet to be added to the master list above. And while I was contemplating this week the action economy use of my home table at 17th level using these powers, as well as the recent revisions that we've made to how sustained powers function as just on off, without having variables built into whether they're sustained or locked, which was vastly overcomplicating the system. Reducing that down to just one option to activate and then decide to lock or leave open with concentration. That was a fun conversion process. We also last week fleshed out and confirmed the structure for different power gear, which we have pretty much done a good job on resolving, having 4 ranks with uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary, which reflects the progression that artificers have with infusions of creating basically uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary items over the course of their level 2 to 18 spread that they run. So that's working out well. We've got a randomizer here for just random gear, what the rarity would be, what the item type is, what the miscellaneous gear is, whether it, if we have the type of gear is either a mana crystal, which we have detailed above. It's either going to be mana crystal, miscellaneous power gear, or a power weapon. So here's how miscellaneous gear works. You have the options between exploits, maneuvers, reactions, and sustained powers being inside of that gear. And if it's a power weapon, then it's going to divide between simple melee, simple range, martial melee, martial weapons. Here's a breakdown of melee weapons. Thank you. Martial melee weapons, simple ranged, and then martial ranged weapons. I don't think these numbers, these variables are necessarily the right variables, but they're good enough for now. We're just basically randoming up gear. Like if I rolled a very rare power weapon, say it's a martial melee weapon, and it's a great sword. So you have a great sword that has a strike power imbued into it. Very rare means 3rd rank. So that sword, when you use that sword, it would have the power of a strike that we have above. Maybe we need to build a random table for which strike it would be. So we would then numerate each of the powers that we have in here, which could be a bear. What we'll do is, we'll build a random loot generator and put it into an Excel spreadsheet that will then drop into the zip file as somebody that's going to purchase this stuff. So they have a full randomizer available to them that we could then adapt and add to as we come back and we add more powers and class features and options in the future with as we continue blending powers and mana spell pools together to build more tools available for us. We'll be able to expand that list. So that's the thought process there. I'm pretty happy with where the magic items are at right now. Basically, it's just you randomize what the power level is and what the discipline is, and then you fill in which, like for example, we have 3rd rank powers that are going into that great sword. We currently have 1, 2, 3, 4. We only have 4 powers of 3rd rank that it could possibly be. So we'd roll a d4. And so if we roll a 3, it'd be overwhelming strike, which is whenever you're using that great sword, your damage increases by 1 power die. It'd be a +2 weapon. And if the creature is resistant to the damage of the attack, it loses that resistance. And if the creature is immune to that damage type, it is instead resistant. And creatures can attempt to end the effect at the beginning of each of its turns by succeeding a Constitution saving throw. There you go. That's an overwhelming. That would be an overwhelming greatsword. So it would have, depending on the weapon, it has a built-in battery that you would then be able to use your own mana supply to further augment. So let's just look at that real quick for power weapons. If the creature attuned to the weapon knows additional strike powers, they can combine with the strike powers enchanted in a power weapon up to the max channel limit of the attuned creature, if any, as detailed above. So you could take that 3rd rank overwhelming strike, and if you have, say, if you're 5th level yourself and you know a 2nd rank strike, you could add it onto the weapon. Let's see how power gear processes. If power of an item holds, each power an item holds can be used a number of times per long rest equal to the attuned creature's proficiency modifier. So there you go. It's going to be like maybe 4 or 5 times per day that you can use overwhelming strike out of the box without modifying it whatsoever. A bard could pick up that weapon and use even though they don't channel mana. They use spell casting, they'd still be able to use overwhelming strike with that weapon at, say, 13th level. What would that be? 5 times a day. There you go. So pretty. I mean, it's a very rare weapon, so that is appropriate. If you instead gave that to a barbarian, a 13th level barbarian, yes, they could use overwhelming strike 4 times a day for free. They would then be able to spend 3 mana as they wish to continue using that beyond its 4 free uses. And then on top of that, they'd be able to add additional mana, say up to 4 mana, to have it do the overwhelming strike feature and add 4 power dice worth of damage instead of the minimum 1 that the weapon allocates to itself. So basic characters that aren't channelers can use these weapons at minimum with like the 1 power die worth of added damage, which is pretty minimal damage. But if you have the channeling class feature that this book is all about, then you can basically just, when you're using that weapon, you're just basically adding overwhelming strike to your list of powers that you know for free, which is kind of the strength that the artificer has. Artificers can't actually learn powers as spells. They still have their spell casting focus, intelligence-based spell list that they learn or prepare. But if they want to know martial powers, they have to learn an infusion so that at each level they can decide how many of their infusions are going to be devoted to knowing different powers, which they would then be able to use through infusions. They could channel mana through them as weapons. So if you learn an infusion, you can use your mana pool as a channeler for that infusion, but that infusion only. So you can have a really good mix of Gish between the Ranger, the Paladin, and the Artificer. They're all 3 half-casting hybrid classes, but the Ranger and the Paladin automatically get full channeling access, while, again, the Artificer only has whatever powers they decide to learn through infusions. And if they didn't choose any infusions that channel power, then they don't have access to any of them. And when they do, they, again, can pick which specific power out of all the disciplines that they want to infuse into an item, and they can either use it themselves, or they can, like normal, you can just hand it off to somebody else. So that's the idea behind how the powers work. Pretty straightforward. It's in here for you guys to review. Spin on down to page 34 of the 33 of the document to get the whole spiel. Power gear. Spiel needed. Let's go with similar to magic items. Power gear. Enchants. Items and equipment with various with martial powers that can be used by any character and can augment channeling the and augment the powers known by channeling by characters and creatures with the channeling feature, period. Below details each type of power gear is described below along and includes random item generators to create the gear. Which means that we need to build a list of stuff. Let's do this. I don't add a lot of comments, but we'll add one here. Comment 130. Need to build random for each power list above. Need to build a randomizer list of trinkets and equipment that can be random found as treasure. So what we'll do is when we start building this, when we start going into final production, we will build out a list of stuff like a worn smooth red stone, or just like trinkets and shit, man. Just like trinkets, or like this is a bedroll and it's been imbued. I don't know, whatever. So I think to describe below and includes random item generators to inspire the creation, to inspire unique power gear. There. Inspire, the great caveat cop-out. But I actually had a thought. Because LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. It's a dangerous pastime, I know. Hoobly doop doop. Yeah, I've got a dentist tomorrow I get to go to. Which means I take the day off and go visit the dentist. Okay, great. Here's the powers that we're inside of. How many do I have listed currently? Jeez, McCrack. 159 powers in here. Step out of the way. PHB. Let's get down into... I want to look for reactions because I had thoughts. Like I said, LeFou, I've been thinking. Let's get back into the ideation area. New ideas. Mounted horse stuff. Look at the cavalier. Foreborn in the saddle. I think I've resolved that for the most part. Let's see. New thoughts on sustained powers. Initial cost to maintain basic effects. Use a reaction plus added mana as a kicker to increase effect results. Kind of like the Blood Hunter deals damage to themselves to amplify an effect of a what the hell are those things called? Curses or whatever the list of things is that the paladin or the Blood Hunter do. You know, I don't need this up all anymore. I think that was in the way. No, it wasn't. And I'm just gonna check my signal here. Hey guys, since you're in this mess with me, if you're interested in seeing more of this stuff in the future, definitely like, subscribe. I stream every morning, almost, other than Sundays. I stream every morning. Art production, development, page layouts, token creation, or just mechanical discussions about different systems that we're creating. So like, subscribe, check out some of my playlists, follow me on Twitter at Theurgy. Do all the things and keep up with me because we're expanding how 5e works in general and trying to move into different design space. I don't think I've seen anywhere else in other game systems that fold really well not only to D&D, but most of these things can be just stapled onto other class-based 5e systems that are out there, and it wouldn't take a lot to jury rig into Pathfinder 1, but I'd have to recalibrate a lot of shit for PF2. If the thing gets popular, I might be willing to do that. So, but it will publish on the DMsGuild. It's designed to fold. If you check the DMsGuild link that I have below, there's a slew of books for alternate spell point mechanics that you can read all those books cover to cover. Look through them all, the artwork, layouts, the design mechanic ideas. It's all there for you guys to look at. This is the martial piece to the spell point variant rules that we already have on DMsGuild, and the core mechanics is well on its way to gold. I've got like maybe 80 copies that if I can sell like another 80 copies, then it's gold. Which is the closest personal effort I have to hitting gold on the DMsGuild currently. And so you could buy that and you'll end up getting a discount to this because I'm going to bundle that in with those books. So go ahead and check those out. And if they catch your fancy, if you find yourself going back to visit it more than once, then chances are it's something worth for you to invest in. If you look at it, you don't like it, don't ever want to look at it again, no harm, no foul. At least you had a chance to read the whole thing and not have to waste your money on the guild. Realizing that what I build isn't to your liking. But again, if it's something you go back and look at again, chances are it means it's catching you somewhere. That it means that investing with me would be fantastic. Either here or joining me on Patreon and become a monthly supporter. Do both if you want. I am looking for Indestructible, and I believe I have it listed. Indestructible. There it is. As a reaction to taking damage from any source, you instead become immune to all damage until the beginning of your next turn. You gain access to that at 13th level. A fighter, a rogue, a barbarian would have 13 mana at 13th level. A paladin, ranger, artificer would have 26. My concern is it's the level is correct. Like at 13th level plus, having something that you can trigger to make you immune to damage for the until it's beginning of your next turn. That's on par for the level of the ability. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is the cost and the setup. So what I want to do is pull Indestructible out of the reaction pool. And I'm going to shift it down to the sustained powers. We're going to keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 third rank powers right now. Third rank you gain access to at 9th level. Fourth is the top rank power. You get those at 13th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to Impervious. While sustaining this power, you gain resistance to all damage and attacks. Can't score critical hits. This is what we're changing here. Indestructible. While sustaining this power, you gain resistance to all damage and attacks. All damage. You gain resistance to all damage and attacks can't score critical hits. As a reaction to taking damage, you can burn 2 mana. As a reaction to taking damage, you can burn 2 mana and dismiss. There. So while sustaining indestructible, you gain resistance to all damage, and attacks can't score critical hits. As a reaction to taking damage, you can burn 2 mana and dismiss this power. Until the beginning of your next turn, you are immune to the triggering damage type. That is a much tighter little window that we can use. So what does this do? We have a hard cap on characters being able to use X amount of mana per level. And when you gain access to this rank of power, 4th rank, you are a 13th level character. You can't channel more than 4 mana at a time. And if you are sustaining a channel, if you are sustaining a, if you are channeling a sustained power, if you lock it, you don't have to maintain concentration on it anymore, but you can't use any other mana. This would allow us to... We're getting around that caveat because you are burning as a reaction to taking damage, you can, it should be worded this way, dismiss this power and burn 2 mana. So I word it specifically to dismiss the power and then burn 2 mana, but it's part of the same thing. While you're dismissing the power, you're burning 2 mana. You spent 4 mana to be able to maintain this basically bear resistance. It's basically Totem of the Bear that you get at 13th level instead of 6th level. Again, one of the guiding principles behind martial powers is it'll give you access to pretty much anything that any other martial character can do, but it won't be as good as the original ability, thus encouraging you to stay with a very focused subclass if that's exactly what you want to do. If you specifically want to play a barbarian, you know, using Totem of the Bear and all that rage stuff that goes into it, then play a Totem Barbarian. That is more specialization for you to take advantage of. But if you like playing martial powers and the flexibility, being able to switch out what your kit of abilities are from level to level, then sure, you can fake a bear totem character if you want to. But again, you wouldn't have that bear immunity power until 13th level. Before that, we'll have other resistant, we'll have lesser resistances and damage threshold stuff. But this is a really good example of, like, it's delayed gratification of getting that full access, and then we have this kicker effect on top of it. So I had originally wanted to explore kickers with sustained, but between the sustained effect, the locked effect, and then a reaction kicker, it was too much. So this being a lot more simplified, I think I can afford to pepper in a few reactionary things in there. Indestructible by itself, it's hella expensive to maintain, but it can be super worth it. Locking it, super valuable, but basically limits your options to just being a tank at that point because you don't have any excess mana left over or any excess max capacity for you to do other stuff with your mana other than just take a beating if you lock it. If you leave it open so that you're just sustaining the power, maintaining concentration with it while you do so, you can trigger other instant effects like strikes and reactions and exploits like you normally would want to. But every time you're taking a hit, you're going to have to measure it against your concentration to see if you're capable of keeping up that indestructibility at all. You're taking some of the damage, but not all of it. So that means it's going to chew on your concentration, especially if you take a solid hit from a creature using a 4th rank strike themselves. Like, you know, like if an ancient blue dragon hits you with shocking strike, And as a very old, like as an adult dragon, it hits you with 4 dice on top of its claw bite attack routine. That's part of the DM section we have up above in building creatures with powers. So like you could end up taking an additional, like it's like 2d12 claw damage plus the extra 2d8 damage, the extra 4d8 damage on top of it. So you're going to be averaging like around 40 some odd damage that if you're resistant to it, then you'll be able to whittle it down. But that dragon could also have overpowering strike. So it ignores your indestructible resistances. And as we get into like 17th, 18, 19 CR creatures, seeing that overpowering strike to overcome the tank and deal them real like solid damage, that becomes more and more plausible as you go up in levels, which is some of the toolkits that a DM has to countering all these effects. So that's some of the mentality behind that. So now that we're looking at indestructible as like the end-all be-all of get out of damage for your character, I want to make sure that we traipse back up the list and look at lesser effects that are going to be complementary, like that are lesser versions of this that you would eventually be able to, like if you have resistant, for example, might be a second rank power that gives you resistance to slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning attacks. And then we could have like a third rank. We can have an advanced one, which is like I think we have elemental resistance. I think is already something we have baked in. So I'm just going to traipse through here and look at what we got going on to see where those things are. Unnatural resistance. There we go. And this is second rank. So unnatural resistance is when you channel this power, choose one type of damage, whether it's force, necrotic, psychic, or radiant. You gain resistance to the chosen type of damage and gain advantage on saving throws to reduce the damage taken of the chosen damage type. You can channel this power more than once simultaneously, choosing a different type of damage with each channeling. It only requires 2. So, and that is resistance, right? God, that might be worth as a first. No, you get the advantage on the saving throw, so that makes it strong enough to be worth 2. That's a sustained power. That's not bad. Let's look at what else we got going on in here. I like that though. I'm happy with it. Gain advantage on strength and con. Cloud Strider, close, strong, right. Dawn. Elemental resistance. Acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. See, that's basic elemental damage. As opposed to second rank. It's unnatural resistance. Copy. Paste. Beep, 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 beep. Dire impact to sustain its power, weapons, attacks, or magic, and you can add your proficiency bonus to your weapon damage rolls. I am super hip with that, and that's a sustained power, so that's always active. That's cool, and that's a 1 rank power, so that's not bad. Strong, wise, close quarter combat, relentless, vigilant. God, I like this song a lot. Range power, power armor, quick assessment, crouching strike, blind sense, cliff runner. That's sustained. I think I must have a reaction. I must have reactions up in here. Let's check up in here. Cheat death, reactive, offense, defensive barrier, countering attack, one's own luck, meticulous effort. Yeah, I still got to find a better name for meticulous effort. Lightning strike, interpose. Deflection, evasion, great fortitude. Where the hell are you, dude? Controlled fall, deflection, downtrodding, feint, great fortitude, iron will. I would say the one problem with this whole book is that there's a shitload of options, and you gotta. It's the same difficulty as spell casting, where you've got a fuck ton of spells, and you have to pick which ones you want. Luckily, we've made it that they're learned powers, not prepared. So you only have to go through that process once. And honestly, if it's part of your level up process, you get to reevaluate your entire kit of powers when you gain your new level, and whatever powers may go along, whatever abilities and features you may get as gaining that level, you may want to swap out 4 or 5 options. So it's not bad that you have to do that. It's bad to have to do it every day, which is one of the things I don't like about prepared casting, like, at all. In my opinion, I would swap out prepared casting and go with learned casting instead. This is like as a general rule for 5e, like, commit to what you have to do. Like, it limits your character's options, and then the whole team can build around each other given what your limited options are. By having, I know the whole shtick is that a wizard has a big spell book and knows a lot of stuff, and they can prepare things as they wish during the day. But I think clerics also doing that, and druids also doing that. I like learned. And I like the spontaneous casting option that they had in 3e, where you would learn your spells, but then you could also have you could pepper in spontaneous, like your specialist list that you have as an artificer or whatever. Like, those are just things that you don't have to, that you automatically have them prepared. You don't have to actually spend your own resources to prepare those things. They're just automatically there for you. Like, I think a cleric could easily go with, say, a known spell list, but then have like the cure, like the healing spells always prepared, without counting against your actual list. So, I mean, that's just me. That's an aesthetic difference that would give me reason to want to develop my own system. But I'm not there yet. So let's see where we're at. Punish, meticulous effort, moving target, one's own luck, stolen fate, countering attack, defensive barrier. God, maybe I don't have a lesser version of. I could swear there is a. God, it must be a sustained power. Cliff Runner, Crouching Stance, Power Shield, Quick Assessment, Ranged Assault, Rogue Stance, Aquatic Adaption, Elemental Resistance. I know it's in here somewhere. One, Rite of Dawn. When sustaining this power, you shed bright light. You can start or end this effect during your turn. No action. Your weapon attack deals radiant damage, and you have resistance to necrotic damage. I am okay with that as a first rank. And you have resistance. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Close Quarter, Relentless, Trap Springer, Vigilance, Castigation, Strong Metabolism, Unnatural Resistance. There it is, Weapon Resistance. And that's listed as second rank. That's 5th level. Am I okay with that? The Barbarian would get it, what, at 1st level with Rage? Yeah, I'm good with moving that to 1st. Totally fine with that. There. I'm going to need to pluck out. I'm going to need to shuffle the Blood Hunter sustained power, the Blood Hunter lists back into the full fold. But until I have that finalized, I still wanna have the Blood Hunter conversions separated out, so that we can add in the PDF. Like, if you want to play a Blood Hunter specifically, here's the list of stuff that came off of Blood Hunter that are unique to the Blood Hunter, that you can then use with mana instead of cutting yourself, as it were. That's important to me. So, and that's a fun little tear out. Beep, 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 beep. So we got the weapon resistance. We should have elemental resistance in here as well. Choose one type. And gain advantage on saving throw to reduce the damage taken in the chosen type. You can take it multiple times. A 18th level character, for instance, could take indestructible, have resistance to all of them. Or could just choose 2 or 3 points to cherry pick which elemental resistances that you would want. Or you could couple, like cherry pick 2 elemental damage types and stack that with unnatural resistance to gain different resistances here as well. Damage taken. Got necrotic here, and I'm not liking necrotic being up in the Dawnbringer. Is that what it's called? Rite of Dawn. While sustaining this power, you shed bright light. In 20 feet, you can start or end the effect during your turn with no action. Your weapon attacks deal radiant damage, and you have... I'm going to do this instead. And you have... I don't want to give you necrotic damage resistance for 1 point here and then charge you 2 points down here. But those damage types are more exotic than up here, so I think they're more important to be resistant to. I want to change that. Rite of Dawn. Well, sustain this power. You shed bright light in 20 feet. You can start or end the effect during your turn with no action. Your weapon attacks deal radiant damage. I don't need to give you damage resistance, and I don't want to. Your weapon attack deals radiant damage, and you can add your... Show me where that was. Castigate, no. Show me where it was. Hold on. Shield. Cliff Runner. I have to fix that. One moment. Where were you? Oh, wait. It's in here. And you can add your proficiency bonus to your weapon damage rolls. That is good. Hold on. While sustaining this power, weapon attacks are magic, and you can add your proficiency bonus to your weapon damage rolls. Rite of Dawn. While sustaining this power, you shed bright light in 20 feet. You can start or end this effect during your turn. Your weapon attack deals radiant damage. Weapon magic damage, same difference. Add your proficiency bonus to your weapon damage rolls. And you can add your I could go max power rank. trying to think, are there instances inside of the game that you're gaining proficiency bonus to damage rolls, and do they stack? I honestly don't know the answer to that now. I'm really, really curious. 5e, D&D, do features that grant I doubt I'm going to get an answer to this. Can't be added to a single die roll or other than once. There you go. No, proficiency bonuses never stack. Well, that solves that then. That was easy. That was actually a lot easier than I anticipated. So, bully. Good distinguishment. Okay, well, I'm solid with that. Double. You're walking speed. That's good. Distinguishment there. Okay, so we've got the weapon resistance, elemental resistance, and at second rank we have a natural resistance. I'm good with all that. I'm good with that. I think that's what I wanted to express up here. So what else do we got going on in sustained powers that we can play with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19, 10, 5, 5, 5. So let's reassess where we're at with the fourth rank powers and see if we like how all of them sit and if we should shut something down to 3 by softening it a little bit. Frenzy. When sustaining this power, you gain 1 additional attack when you take the attack action, and you gain advantages on all saving throws. That is hellacious. Master of Fate. When you trigger this power, roll 3 d20 fate dice. When you later roll a d20 while this power is sustained, you can choose to replace the result with any one of these fate dice. Each fate die can be used once. While this power is sustained, you can spend a point of mana as a bonus action during your turn to roll an additional fate die, replacing any results or gaining additional regaining a fate die up to maximum of 3. Unused fate dice are lost when the power is dismissed. I don't know if that is speaking plainly enough, but the intent here is you get 3 dice, and when you use it, it's gone. But you can spend a point of mana to roll another one and have 3 again. Or if you roll a bunch of shitty dice, you can roll additional mana to replace those die as a bonus action for each die. So while you are sustaining or locking Master of Fate, gaining fate die up to 3. You can spend, while this power is sustained, you can spend 1 point of mana. You can burn. playing with spend versus burn, because there's a difference, because you can spend mana by sustaining it, you can spend mana by locking it, you can spend mana by actually, like as an instant effect, burning it. And sustained and locked mana doesn't get burned until you dismiss the power. So there is that. Because the amount of mana tapped to sustain a power determines the DC of your concentration checks when you make saving throws or take damage. So it is relevant, and it is a mechanical distinction that you can't just slop away with spend. So I mean, I guess you could, but it's you always want to know how much mana you have tapped or locked, so you know how much stuff you can channel. Like, is that channel open for you to pass through to spend more mana and dump out of, or is it locked and you can't spend the mana because it's stuck behind the lock? That's kind of that mentality works. That's the visual. You can burn 1 point of mana as a bonus action during your turn to roll an additional fate die up to a maximum of 3. To do so. That feels relevant. There's that. Anything else going on in here? Gain advantage on attack rolls. While sustaining this power, you are attuned to any magic item you can hold in one hand, even if you don't normally qualify to do so. And you gain the benefits of the Heart of Artifice or Exploit power above for any magic item you're holding. You know what? I think I can get rid of that second kicker because I think that overcomplicates it. Period. I think I can drop that to 3. Go with auto attunement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cool. We're well within curve there. So auto attunement. While sustaining this power, attack rolls against you. Flurry attack while sustaining this power. You can use a bonus action, including the action used to sustain flurry attacks, to make 2 weapon attacks. That's just monk, but less expensive, or more expensive at a higher level. Giant growth is pretty boss. Haste is what it is. Ghostwalker. Alter reality. While sustaining this power, when a creature you can see within 30 feet makes an attack or ability check, you can burn 1 mana while sustaining this power. God, that could just be a reaction. Why would I need to sustain that? See, I don't. With Master of Fate, I think Master of Fate takes care of the need to sustain it. I think I was trying to mitigate the cost of just at will screw yous. So I want to actually go down into reactions because I'm sure I have a reactive screw you already in effect. So let's go find it. Strikes, reaction. As a reaction to a creature taking damage, if the creature is resistant to the damage, it can't benefit from resistance to the damage rolled. Alternatively, if it's immune to the damage, it is instead only resistant. But we have that in Overwhelming Strike. So let's check out Overwhelming Strike real quick to make sure it's not redundant. Because if Overwhelming Strike, your damage increases by 1 power die. Persistent if the creature is resistant to the damage of this attack, it loses that resistance. The creature is immune, is instead resistant. The creature can attempt to end this effect at the beginning of each of its turns by succeeding a Constitution saving throw per mana burn. We can get rid of Overwhelming Strike. Yes, we can. And keep the reaction up. Curse of Exposure. Bork bitch. What up, dude? Hey, yeah. If you're new to the project, I do this every Monday. It's my Monday stream. There's a link in the description to my Patreon, and if you go follow that to the about, it's free for you to view. This is the actual playtest document. It's read only, but you can read it cover to cover, as it were. And when it publishes on the DMsGuild, it will also remain 100% preview. You can read the whole thing cover to cover. So there'll be a bunch of assets and stuff in a zip file and of course, investing in it as a purchase would be encouraged. But my general principle is you should be able to read the whole thing before you buy it, because I, on the DMsGuild, have been burned way too often by purchasing something that looked cool, but when I actually buy it, it's just... They didn't show you all the nasty parts, so they hid that part away, and you end up buying only a ho-hum product. Back when I was growing up, in the 90s, when I was buying content for D&D, I had to go to the bookstore. And at the bookstore, we could read the whole book cover to cover. And I would sit down and read the book. And after I got done it, I would collect up all my lawn mowing money, and I'd go in and I'd make my purchase once a month. Like, hey Phil, what are you gonna buy? And so I would hang out at the mall and read these books while my sister's like doing, teenage cool stuff. But respect. There's actually a DMsGuild link down below. You can look at all my Color Mana Spell Point variant rule books, and just as proof of pudding, all those books, there's about 120 pages worth of content there. Again, 100% free to view. I'm currently running a 17th level campaign using my spell point mechanics. I know they work. I've been using them for a few years now. If it's not to your taste, then just go ahead and take it as there it is. But the general idea is that if you think they're cool, or if you find yourself ever going back to look at those books again because there's something about them that caught your attention, that's a good indication that you should probably buy something, just because it's valuable to you. If it's garbage, then I wouldn't want you to pay for it at all. But my spell point, this Martial Powers project, the Eberron adventure that I stream in the mornings, the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book that we're currently building token assets for, all that stuff is going to be the same thing. It's all free to view and built to be used. I am a forever DM, And all the player options that I build and publish on the guild is stuff that I want in my D&D game. Like, I want you, like, if you're gonna play Ravnica, I want you to use color mana because it's so obvious for NTG titles. If you're using Strixhaven or Theros, all this color mana stuff makes incredible sense. If you want to play a Last Airbender game campaign, then you could be using elemental mana from both this book as well as the elemental key book that's in that bundle. It lays out the ideas of how you can use actually devoting yourself to specific elements and how you can change the resources you have available to channel different types of elements while you're doing disciplines. And this book is themed off as well. It's built as generic key, but further down in the book, it talks about purchasing devotion to specific power types, whether the elemental paradigm, magic paradigm, the 5-color magic paradigm, or other paradigms. These are ways for you to associate different types of damage to different types of magic structures inside that paradigm. And you can look back like maybe 6 episodes ago in the Martial Powers playlist. It walks through the painstaking effort of me boiling down what's in the DM's Guild books already into something super simple and distilled into something really easy for martial types to just access. Like, as a Rakdos with black and red mana, you might not need to have anything. Like, the only representation of that black and red mana is what kind of damage are you going to be dealing with black and red. Like, you could purchase necrotic damage, so whenever you hit something, you're dealing necrotic damage. That'd be 1 power that you could purchase at 5th level as a Rakdos character, or as like a 1st level Rakdos character. You could purchase acid damage or fire damage if you wanted to, or optionally lightning damage if you wanted. But by 5th level, you could swap out or add to that anytime you're spending mana, you're able to do necrotic and force damage with that weapon. So that's like a super easy way to make like Selesnya with white-green magic different from Rakdos with red-black magic, because you could both, for instance, use invulnerability, indestructible. You'd be able to use like red mana or black mana or white mana or green mana, or if it's if it's elemental magic that you're doing, you could be earth magic that you're channeling to become indestructible, or water magic that you're channeling to become indestructible. It's the paradigm is just a flavor, and aesthetically it's just a visual or a way to describe the magic that you're using. But the only hard mechanic that goes along with it is that if you decide to follow that paradigm, here's damage types that you can purchase so that your weapon always does that type of damage whenever you're spending mana to hurt something. So that's the idea behind that. Super simple. But we've just been combing through these things, looking to see how everything is aligning together to see if where we're at right now with the powers that we have. This is something that we do frequently. We'll come back, we'll revisit the powers, we'll reassess what's the balance point, how does this synergize against other class features that already exist. Is this unbalancing anything? Is it overtuned? And a lot of times I'll notice that things are overtuned. So like we did a huge restructuring of sustain because my 17th level team kept getting bogged down in, is this sustained or is it locked? And if it's sustained, I get what? And if it's locked, I get something else? Like that's just, it's too complicated. So we had to simplify the whole process. So now we're going back through and we're just looking at how things sit. I like to have less powers available at higher ranks than lower ranks. Like I like to have more and more, like the hem down the options that are available as you get further and further up in level. Because like you could take, like for example, power armor here is a 1st rank sustained power that gives you basically magecraft that continues to improve as you gain proficiency and you gain dexterity modifiers. That's a good thing to just generally have as a 1 out of 5 mana, like you're dropping mana into that thing to make it do. But still, that's one basically spell level or rank worth of power that you're investing into it. Most of these things don't have a scaling factor, they're sustained, but like Banishing Strike is a 4th rank strike. So you're going to spend 4 mana to use it, and this rewards you by, well, however much mana you sink into it, is how many additional smite damage dice that you throw to hurt something with, and then on top of it, you banish them for a while. you know, or paralyzed. They're paralyzed for a while. So like I could have up to 5 mana, like an 18th level, 17th level paladin can have 5th level spells. So that means you could put 5 mana into this, which means you'd be able to do 5d at that level. Would be 10. So it'd be like 5d10 damage dice on top of potentially banishing them, instead of using the banishing smite spell. Like this would replace that. So because this is an on hit thing, and then we have to and then if you go up and you look at the paladins, you can see how we recalibrated the damage for paladins to use the variant class features. Divine Power, starting at 2nd level, when you channel a strike power through a melee weapon attack, you can deal 1 additional power die of damage. So that 2d8, like you automatically do 2d8 whenever you smite, that comes online with this because 1 mana equals 1 die. But the paladin automatically, with Divine Power, whenever you use a smite, you get an extra die on top of it for free. So that's just how that just mimics what the paladin does without being weird about, you know, spend. Improved Divine Power replaces improved Divine Smite at 11th level. Starting at 11th level, your Divine Power improves. Instead of adding an additional power die to the damage when you channel a strike power, all melee weapon attacks deal 1 additional power die of weapon or radiant damage. When you channel a strike power, this additional damage can be the same type as the strike. So this basically just creates a flat line. It's just the same as what Divine Power would be, but it's reconfigured to work with this 1 to 5 scaling system that we have for the power dice. Because it starts with a d6, becomes a d8, and then becomes a d10. So we have to be thinking about how much damage as a d10 are you going to be dealing compared to the paladin using a bunch of, like a paladin can get like 7d8 worth of smite damage versus our 5d10 plus the kicker for a 6d10. So it ends up balancing out to being roughly a few numbers within each other. So cool, man. Hey, like, subscribe. I'm around a lot. Check out the old streams. This will be added to the Martial Powers playlist later on. Thanks for the support and the interest, man. Glad to have you swing by. Come again. So let's go back into the powers and see if there's any sustained fixes that we need to make, because that seems to be what this session is doing. Here. I'll settle these and then we'll make a random magic item. So Master of Fate. Okay, that's what we were chewing on. We were chewing on Alter Reality. We wanted to see if there was already a reaction that existed that screwed people's dice. And I believe the answer is yes. So let's go verify that to see if this is something we're going to keep or not. Rite of Revival. Reactions. Anchor, Fallen Puppet, Curse of Exposure, Curse of Exposure is 1st rank. As a reaction to a creature taking damage, if the creature is resistant to the damage, it can't benefit from resistance to the damage rolled. As a reaction to a creature within 30 feet. So that was as a reaction to a creature within 30 feet taking damage. If the creature is resistant to the damage, it can't benefit from resistance to the damage roll. Alternatively, if it's immune to the damage, it is instead only resistant. So that resolves the overwhelming strike, which means that we've dropped ourselves down to $158 powers, and I'm okay with that. Let's see. Strikes, reactions, right? Revival, Curse of Exposure, Hexproof. As a reaction to when a creature you can see targets you with a spell or magical effect, the creature must succeed a charisma saving throw at disadvantage, or the spell or magical effect is wasted. There, that's better language. I think that's a fair reaction for 4 mana at 13th level. Just don't be affected. That's nice. As a reaction to when a creature you can see targets you with a spell. Not just AoE, but targets you. Cheat Death. As a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying, you can take an action before the condition affects you. Doing so stuns you next turn if you are alive. I want to say that's a keeper. There's the Rite of Revival, which is as a reaction to when you drop to 0 hit points but don't die outright, you instead drop to 1 hit point versus Hexproof. No, Cheat Death. As Rite of Revival is 3rd rank, and Hexproof is 4. Cheat Death is 4th. As a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying, you can take an action. As a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying, you can take an action before the condition affects you. As a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying, you can take an action. You can take an action before what do I want to say? Like before this occurs, or as a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying, you can take an action. Before this condition of before you can take an action. As a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying, you can take an action as a reaction to becoming incapacitated or dying. You can take any action. You can take an action. You can take an action before this condition affects you. There you go. Yeah, that's good wording. This action affects you. Doing so stuns you next turn if you are. I think that's good for now. I think there may be a problem with it mechanically. I think the language is a little sloppy still, but I think the intent is there. Again, we're going to hire an editor to help clean up the slop. Reactive Jaunt. As a reaction to when an allied creature you can see within 30 feet, including yourself, takes damage from a source you can see, you can teleport the damaged creature to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range, preventing any damage instead. The chosen space must be on a surface or a liquid. If you target a creature, it can choose to make a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. That'd be 3 and 3. Stolen Fate. As a reaction to when a creature you can see within 30 feet makes an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, you can curse them to roll a disadvantage. This, I believe, is what we were looking for. Stolen Fate. Let's verify that. Yeah, alternate reality is close enough. I'm gonna get rid of it. We'll do 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just reduce the amount of sustained powers by 1. Let's go back to Stolen Fate. As reaction to when a creature you can see within 30 feet makes an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, you can curse them to roll at disadvantage. They use the lower result, and you can use the higher roll during your next turn instead of rolling for one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. This benefit is lost if the result isn't used by the end of your next turn. Before the end of your next turn, instead of rolling. This benefit is lost if the result isn't used by the end of your next turn. And you can use the higher roll, the higher result, instead of rolling for one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. This benefit is lost if the result isn't used by the end of your next turn. There we go. That's good. And then Stolen Fate as a second rank, that's at level 6. Basically, what it is, it's a Silvery Barbs effect. It's in a way a more balanced, softer version of Silvery Barbs. So, as a reaction, when a creature you can see within 30 feet, so the range is okay. It's still a reaction. Obviously, it's in the reactions. It's second rank, meaning it costs a second level spell slot or 2 mana instead of Silvery Barbs 1, which I still believe was a mistake because all the other Strixhaven specific spells were second level, not first level. So Silvery Barbs, I'm pretty sure, was supposed to be second rank, but I think they took it from a Mage Duel system that they ended up scrapping, where they gave you a number of first rank options, and they exported them into new spell effects, I believe is what they ended up doing. I mean, they wouldn't actually tell us, but I'm pretty sure that's how that sausage got made. And so they didn't really bother with connecting the dots between that used to be a first level expenditure during your Mage Duel versus just a general spell that you can have access to should have been second level. So I mean the power balance is there because imposing opportunity, imposing advantage as well as imposing disadvantage is effectively a +10 modifier, and that's pretty much where you see pass without trace. That's what it is. 5e pass without trace. We'll go to Roll20 because God bless you, Roll20. I love your compendium. So much more user-friendly than D&D Beyond. Yep, +10 bonus to dexterity. See, it's a +10 bonus specifically. It's a specific type of bonus to creatures within an area of effective use. So the lack of diverse usage, the lack of options for using that +10 bonus is mitigated by how many people get to benefit from it in a specific circumstance. Where we're looking at it is you can use it for any circumstance, but it's limited to the person that you're targeting and yourself. So it has an equal amount of flexibility, but the variables are swapped. So it's a fixed amount to a variable number of creatures versus a fixed amount of creatures and variable use amongst the die rolls. So it's technically balanced at second against Pass Without Trace. Pass Without Trace is a very specialized effect, so it obviously is very optimal in its use in helping stealth. Like you could have, there could also be a rallying research. Whenever you're doing an investigation check, allies around you within 30 feet gain a +10 bonus to their intelligence, lore, or intelligence arcana check when they're researching inside of a library. Like that allows you guys to like fan out and look for books together. Like you could do that too. That's an alternate Pass Without Trace derivative that, you know, lots of creatures, limited application. So But yeah, I'm happy. I like doing these tweaks. I like doing these tweaks on stream because it's fun just to hash through the mentality that goes on behind them. I just enjoy that process. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 and 2. That was 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that is 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Off balance is a reaction when a creature you can see makes an melee attack against you. The creature must succeed a Constitution saving throw, or the attack fails and the creature is stunned until the beginning of their next turn. God, that's really good. Anchor, Rite of Revival. As a reaction to a source you can see targeting you with an attack, you create a momentary translucent barrier, granting you full cover against the attack, causing the attack to automatically miss unless it ignores cover. Which is very similar, which is like a standstill. You only, as a reaction to a source you can see targeting you with an attack. Which is, you know what? I think I can afford to make defense barrier 2nd rank. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 5, 6. And then lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Cool. 11. Okay, that's all on balance now. Cheat death. Hexproof. Whoa. Dismiss. We've been streaming for what? An hour and 20 minutes? It's 1 o'clock-ish. I think that's where we're at. So yeah, this is the fun that we've had today. We've just been rebalancing reactions, strikes, and sustained powers. I'm pretty happy with the results so far. We only put in about an hour or 2 a week into this project, plus some hang time. I think I put like an extra 3 hours into this week, calibrating stuff. So let's scroll down to the bottom of the document. This is why I don't want to rush getting this into edits yet, because I'm still parsing things out, still balancing, tweaking stuff, and honestly just enjoying the slow brew of it. I really have no reason to be in a hurry for this. So we cleaned up some power language already. We have, let's go into let's push this back to April. Let's say April 15th. That's the 15th, and a Monday after April 15th. We'll push the deadline to April 15th. Oh, that's a Sunday. That's a Saturday. How coincidental. So we'll go to April 17th. Book cover design. I think that's a more realistic timeline. Continue power gear and creature samples. Bit out DMs. Okay, so what do we actually, other than be tweaking stuff all the time, what do we actually need to do? We're pretty good with the structure of power gear, but I think building some examples would probably be appreciated. So Next week, we will commit to building examples of magic items, and we will commit to building examples of creatures using power, using powers as well. We can do that through February, coming up February, and then how to use the dock. Like, how do you deal with like on-demand damage resistance? How do you deal with on-demand damage types? How do you deal with the stack of mana? How do you deal with the versatility and changing of character options? Like, these are all things that can just be addressed as general DM notes. Like, what kind of creatures do you want to throw at stuff? What's your hot list of like powers you want to think about having, like bosses having versus grunts and tanks having? Like, we can break down that dichotomy into like general kits, so we can build role kits out of these, and we can feed that into, hey, you know, if you're trying to figure out how to use these things, look at how we're building monsters. That helps you inform where you're going with stuff. I think we're in a good place to be able to continue moving forward with this. I love this system. It's super fun. If I were to build my own RPG, this would be, I think, like the base framework of how I would have spells and stuff in general. Like, spells would become more and more unrelated to your own character, like what they're doing, like scry and like planar binding and stuff like that. Those are like, a lot of those things could be rituals that non-martial like full casters would have access to a shitload of rituals, and defining what's a combat spell versus a downtime activity versus an exploration spell. Like those 3 different modes where your turn is 6 seconds in combat versus a turn is 10 minutes. That's a very Pathfinder 2 approach, where they're shifting gears between different modes versus combat mode versus exploration mode versus downtime mode. I think it can be done. I think it can be addressed more elegantly than that. PF2 is very gamey, and there's a lot to appreciate about that. But I think my own design principles, I think I want to have something that feels a little bit more elegant. Like, I like shifting gears, but I like shifting those gears to be less of an announcement. Like, we will now roll initiative because we have shifted our gears into combat. We will now be in exploration mode, so we're shifting gears into that. Like, I like that gearbox to be an automatic, where whatever action is that you're taking is where the game is automatically shifting into that different mode of narration, just by what it is that you say your players want to do and how the DM would resolve that. That should, I think, in like intrinsically and intuitively inform what mode of game you're in. Like if you're leaving town, like if you're leaving a dungeon, you're not exploring anymore. It's like, hey, before the end of the day, I want to look at that scroll. That's a downtime activity, which would have like ritual type processes. So we can work the same mechanics and the same resource pool in different modes of adventure. I like keeping that term, but I want that term to slide into the background as much as possible. It's just something that you're aware of, that there's different modes and that things pace differently. But that, again, would be if I was building my own RPG, which I'm not currently doing. What I am currently doing is using the DMsGuild to create these different approaches of resolving things that have been trouble that has been created as a result of of Wizards of the Coast Adventures. We don't have the tools to properly perform a heist. Are we going to see in the Golden Vault tools to run effective heists in D&D? That's a super iffy question, because if they handle heists as tritely as they handled downtime semester work in Strixhaven, it will be very disappointing. And we would then be able to take serious cues from Leverage and Blades in the Dark to create a more, and I've talked about this on Indestructiboy's Designosphere in his Discord channel there, about creating like flashback mechanics as a resource that you would spend. This system has a generic resource system that all characters can buy into. Once the heist book comes out, we could really lean into the idea, and we have it here. Let me get to it. we get out of the subclass conversion workshop. Rogue ideas. Heist. Flashback. Narrative. Spending mana equals improvise a flashback of how you prepared for this problem, prepared for the current challenge with various mechanical caveats. Advantage, disadvantage, power dice added to results, mind altering, control reaction, disposition of NPCs, disabling traps, avoiding trolls. I think Blades in the Dark breaks these things up, but this is just me spitballing real quick, like what we could use this same martial power system to empower a rogue or a whole team. We're going to run heists this level, so you could all switch out your skill kit to focus on heist activities, so everyone has a reaction that they could use it like a flashback. So reaction mechanics equal flashback equals resolve current challenge there. That's a nice type. That's a nice type. A nice type puncture there, that we could make all those first rank reactions or reaction or exploits is the best place to have these, to be able to do that heist flashback mechanic, to integrate that into it, like super easy just to have it in there. Like, it allows you to open up this flashback ideas. Like, you start to get into a conversation at a ball and you're talking to this gal, and like, I'm going to use a point of mana to improvise a flashback to do my research on who all is going to be at this ball, so I know who this person is, and like, I spend 3 mana on it. So like, I gain what would be like contact other plane to get 3 answers to random questions. I actually already have that in the in-command system for researching backgrounds on things, to be able to just ask open-ended questions with with either ambiguous answers or just vague information, very similar to contact other plane, or oh god, what is it? Like speak with plants, that sort of thing. Anyway, it's just a general lore dump that you can just pump mana into to get answers. My team at 17th level right now, they're using contacts natures of spirit, whatever the hell that druidic spell is, that lets you awaken the spirits of that hex of land and ask them questions. They spend 5 mana to contact nature to open up that conversation and get 5 questions. And while they maintain concentration, they can continue dumping in pieces of mana. They just keep chipping in an additional point. And every time they spend a point of mana, they can ask another question. So last session and this session is going to just be an open Q&A about everything that's happening in this new hex that they've never been before. So they can keep diving deeper and deeper into details, asking the spirit of the land what's going on around here. And they love that shit. It's like a mix of social and exploration for them, where they're gathering information by interacting with the spirits in that land. Very straightforward. This allows you to do that as a sort of, well, I spent the time. And then what you can do is you can, the number of days that you spend researching equals the amount of mana that you can spend at any particular time. So if you're going to do the heist, you have to do the work beforehand. You ignore what that work is. You just slot off that amount of time to perform that research and that background knowledge to set up the heist. the DM can create complications inside of that time frame as challenges related to it, and depending on how well they do on those challenges means how many more improvisations are they going to have to do to backflash to be able to resolve the challenges that come up. I think there's a lot of effectiveness here, and obviously Blades in the Dark and stuff like that are leverage are built specifically inside of that game system, sort of super deep dive. But 5e is kind of a mechanics light system. We can easily integrate those ideas into this system to be able to have a heist mechanic that goes along with that curves into our organizational, the resources and the time spent to use those resources to gather information. Same thing. We already have mechanics in place. We're just implementing a new way to use them into the system. So that's exciting. And I am looking forward to investing time. Once Keys of the Golden Vault comes out, and we see what they actually provided for us as a base tool set to see if they're actually trying to forward the concept of heists in 5e in general, we can then distill the mechanics from those two other RPGs and then filter them through the 5e system and come up with this. So it's pretty damn good. The more and more we get into this, the more and more flexible it becomes. So I'm really excited about this being able to evolve into like an Essence 20 sort of system that we can just use for generic fantasy outside of D&D specifically. But we'll see where it all goes. So like and subscribe. Check out my other playlists to see what we got going on. Follow me on Twitter so you know when I go live, because I always shout out when I am. Check out the playlists. Check out my books on DMsGuild. If any of them catch your fancy, buy them. Very much appreciated. Be welcome to follow me on Patreon if you just want to chip in support. That's appreciated too. But likes and subscribes are the largest gold that I can collect right now. The largest loot I can get from the stream is your subscription. And I'm looking forward to being back again tomorrow morning with Spelljammer Token. Oh God, I'll be back tonight in like 6 hours. I'll be back in 6 hours. And we'll be doing Spelljammer tokens tonight as well. I think we're going on the Flying Fish, and we might get into the Lamprey, though there's no promises. They tend to take me 2 hours a pop, and that's generally how long I stream. So generally I can get 1 token per day done. So I should be able to finish the Flying Fish and get into the Lamprey. But we'll see where fate takes us. So thanks a lot for being around. I'll see you guys on the other side.